Hi, Ravi.
Hi, Savitri.
Well, we had a little break, and here we are back for a slightly different topic.
Another episode. Welcome back to our listeners. And something that we forgot to mention in our last episode on the Gunas, we talked about managing those energies in our lives, the sattvic energy, the pure energy, the rajasic energy, which is creative and initiating, and then the tamasic energy of inertia, decay, rest, we may say.
Mhm.
And we talked about how we might manage those through different practices, whether it's mindfulness or meditation or a mantra practice. But we also can manage that and direct channel those energies through diet as well.
Mhm.
In other ways, music, maybe it's the music that we listen to, the lifestyle choices that we make. So we will circle back to that another time. But today we are moving on, or today we are uh, moving on to bum ba dum
We are moving
self
on. We are moving on to the self and the 10 bodies.
and the 10 bodies. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I know we have an integration plan that we always plan to do, and bringing a thread. This is a sutra. We're bringing the thread in from previous episodes. Doesn't mean if you've started with us now today that you'll be out of sync.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah, it just
You
means
can
that.
pause and listen to the previous episode, or you can jump in here.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Because we did discuss that more in the previous episode. And the self, the Atman, and the 10 bodies are where we're at today. Do you want to start? Do you want to go first or do you want me
Well,
to?
I'll just start. Let me start because I'm going to do some things about definitions, and maybe that'll just set
Oh,
the
good.
stage a
Yes.
little bit. Um, when I started thinking about self, I have a really, I'll admit, rather single pointed, some would call it narrow, focus of what the self is. And that is the inner soul, that divine peace that we incarnate, right, with a body. And after studying the Upanishads, which is an ancient text, know that there are sections of the Vedas and the Upanishads that have been popularized. One is Patanjali's work, comes out of the Upanishads, and there's a way of coming into the self. There are mentions of the self and the ways of being in lots of the ancient texts, and the Bhagavad Gita has a really robust grounding in the self. So, from that perspective, which I will call focused and some might call narrow, I would say that it brings us to a point of reference. So, I put that over here and I thought about the self. And if I didn't have that single point of reference, what would self mean? So, I thought I would do an exploration of what that is, and you may be doing it as well right now in your head. What is your understanding or knowing of self? What is it? And you may come up with lots of different things around it. So I went to the dictionaries and I went to Google and I went to, other texts that I have. I actually still have some hard copy dictionaries. I do. I have several.
That's super sweet.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
And so here's just a sprinkling of some of the things that came out of that. The self, an individual's typical character or behavior, an individual's temporary behavior or character, a person in prime condition. Now that gets a little closer to the self I was talking about. Personal
Mhm.
interest or your advantage. in the world. The entire person of the individual. And then we have to ask, well, what's the individual, right? That's the next question. The realization or embodiment of an abstraction. Now that starts to take us back over here to the single point of focus for the self with the capital S.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then a single character or quality throughout. And the list goes on and on. Oneself or itself, of oneself or of itself, of same kind, like another, of different kind, unique and special. All these things, and I won't read them all, but I think you get an idea now of how we may talk about the self and what that actually means. So the one that actually fit probably the closest is of or in oneself or its inherent quality, and from or by means of that quality. So we can think about that a little bit and start
That's
thinking
pretty
about,
rich.
yeah, the construct of the self. And coming back to the single point of focus that I started with, the self is the divine being, the divine cosmic energy, the divine experience of living in a form made of earth, air, fire, and water on earth, an incarnation. So I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about the 10 bodies. And when we brought these two topics together, what you had in mind.
Well, a couple of things before I jump into the 10 bodies that came to mind while you were going through those definitions is, first of all, the lowercase self, the
Mhm.
ego identity versus the capital S self, uh, the the great I am. So there's that. And then through those definitions, you could hear the evolution of the self in some through that from the lowercase ego self to the capital S self, which is the I am. And there are many different explanations and thoughts and schools of thought and approaches to what we are, who we are, what is the self from the tradition that I come from the 10 bodies of the Kundalini yoga tradition.
Mhm.
There's the one physical body recognized, the three mental bodies or the three minds, and the six energetic bodies. And those do include the soul and the subtle body, which is one of the 10, which is said to encapsulate the soul on its journey from unmanifest consciousness into form. And of course, our physical body. And then there are a few others that I think are maybe a little less talked about in Western yoga or yogic teachings that we may see: the aura, the pranic body, the arc line, the subtle body, the radiant body. But yeah, I could go about the 10 bodies for days. And because it's these beautiful, it's again that I like to think of it as a symphony where each body is playing its part, or we're experiencing them in a some way, whether we're aware of it or not. And when we're aware of how we can balance and harmonize these parts of ourself, You may need to fine tune your string section over here once in a while. You may need to tune up your brasses over here. But when you start to really get into that flow and that whole symphony plays, that self-sensory human being that you are really starts to vibrate the cosmos, as we say, right?
Yes, along the way, I was thinking about the koshas that we I talk about quite a bit in practice. Once a week we have practices that are focused on the koshas. The Annamaya kosha, which is that physical body. There are only 5 of these, though. Pranamaya kosha, which is the breath sheath that you continue to develop and create and maintain life force. And then we have the Manomaya kosha, which is the intelligent mind, and the Vijnayamaya kosha, which is the bridge from the intelligent mind through the abstract mind to the Anandamaya kosha, which is that sheath that you mentioned that surrounds the soul, that opens the lotus to inner peace, tranquility, our inner light, our radiance, however you want to describe it. And there are lots of ways. We know we have lots of language around that. And the self is um, elusive and available at the same time. It's a
Mhm.
both and. And when we define the self intellectually, it loses its qualities. The
Mhm.
gunas
Yes.
become a little bit heavier into the tamasic realm and the rajasic realm and less sattvic. But if we start thinking about a sattvic way of living, that is, and use your word, a portal or a doorway, a window maybe is another way to talk about it, into the self.
Mhm.
So some would say, and there are quite a few of those, some people would say, that when we incarnate with our Atman, our soul, we do it in order to pay debts, karmic debts, maybe to create new karma of all qualities and outcomes. And at the same time, learn how to find the self again, to come back to the answer to the question, who am I? And from that question, which we use in meditation quite a bit, and many lineages do, you'll hear that question as the age-old question of humanity: is who am I? And
Mhm.
after we strip away some of the trappings of personality and behaviors and physical appearances and attitudes, all that stuff, the psychology of self, because we have a huge uh, amount of information around that now. Uh, the subtle bodies are energetic, pulsing,
Mhm.
radiant, and I can't even use the word forms, so I have to stop there. There isn't really a word that says what they are. It's,
Mhm.
I noticed when you were talking about it, you were using your hands a lot, like this, because this really is, this is the
Frequency. It's
language.
frequency, really, which
Yes,
is,
it is.
I guess, that's what some of the greats like Tesla, told
Mm-hmm.
us, Nikola Tesla's, and think in the go, go think in terms of frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think we're most familiar with what I find interesting about the 10 bodies is the order that they're listed,
Mm-hmm.
traditionally with the soul
Mm-hmm.
body first. That's, really
Right.
the essence of who we are.
Right.
Then come the minds, the negative, positive, and neutral minds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are what kind of get in the way between us and self, right?
Sure.
Where we've got our negative mind, which is it's the term that is associated with that is longing to belong, we come here, we have a longing to belong. We have that longing for union. Now, the negative mind does give us containment and discernment and form. So it can help us make good decisions, discernment, discerning what is for me, what am I here for, what is my, what is meant for me, what is not. But if it's out of harmony or out of balance, that longing to belong leads us into situations, relationships, whatever it may be, that may be destructive. So self-destructive behaviors or destructive relationships, etc. So there's again, this is a spectrum always of where are we balancing these aspects of self. Um, and then we have the positive mind, and the saying associated with this mind is devil or divine, because
Mm-hmm.
again, that positive mind, it's not positive as in this is always good. It tends to see the positive in all. It's expansive, which again, if it's out of balance, if it's on one side of the too far on that scale, it may get us into situations or relationships or whatever it may be, circumstances that aren't always best for us because we see that positive in everything. So it comes to that neutral mind
Mm-hmm.
that we want to cultivate. So these are we're always balancing these. And that is we observe, we obtain information, we evaluate that information, and we integrate that information. And then we have true discernment. And when this is out of balance, we can feel victimized in life because we don't see we can't make that connection. We can't make the connection between our experience and make the meaning from it without observing with that neutral mind.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect there. So that balancing of these is a way to integrate our experiences to create meaning in our lives.
Yeah.
So I think we're most familiar with the minds and, of course, the physical body, which I think is interesting that comes in at number 5 because it's kind of a connector, right? The physical body is if we are not in alignment in these other areas, we that can manifest in our physical body. So it's called it's balance and teacher. So our physical body is what informs us often. Are we listening to our bodies and what they're telling us? Whether it's a gut instinct or maybe it's a more clairvoyant way of taking in information.
Mm-hmm.
Do we use that information? Are we integrating to the point that we could explain it? Um, I forget how it was said with Abraham Lincoln, who said something about if you can't explain it to like a 10-year-old, uh, then you don't know it well enough. And the auric bodies
Yes.
are those which we can strengthen through practices, through lifestyle choices, that those are the energetic bodies that help us be able to go deep within because they protect us energetically. And by protecting us energetically, even our physical bodies can be protected. So we strengthen that auric body. Imbalance of the aura can feel like a lack of self-trust. And if we don't trust ourselves, or feeling paranoid, and think of what happens when we don't trust ourselves or if we feel not safe in our choices. So we balance that platform of elevation, the aura, so that we can feel safe interacting with the world, keeping our heart open because we have that energetic protection. Same thing with the arc line,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the
Mm-hmm.
women have the arc line.
Mm-hmm.
And so using your intuition to support yourself, your decisions, because we're bombarded with information. Can you discern what's for you? Can you discern what's for others? And can we live with keeping the aura strong? Can we live moving forward in that way that aligns with us and allow others to do the same without interference, allowing that aura to guide us, the energy of these other subtle bodies to guide us. Without a strengthened pranic body, we may experience chronic fatigue or low level, just chronic anxiety. And these impact us, how we move through the world and how we feel in our physical bodies. I didn't get through the radiant body. That's our magnetic presence. I touched on the subtle body, but um, these are we are more than that physical body and more than the
Yeah.
mind. I think in the West, we've made that mind body connection for quite some time. That's nothing new to us. Even mind body emotion,
Mhm,
has
mhm.
been made on some levels out there. But there are layers upon layers of subtle aspects to ourselves that really make up all of who we are as a self-sensory human. And um, we can tap into these and tune ourselves into these to better manage. I mean, like, what's the point? It's like, well, why are we talking about this? Because these can help us manage what comes at us in life. We don't control that, but these help us manage our self-sensory system so that we can move with ease and grace in tough situations and connect with each other and support each other
Yeah, and move through
in
the
our,
four aims, you know? I
yeah.
mean, when we think about
Yeah.
that, it all comes down to we're here for a purpose, for our dharmic purpose,
Hmm.
and we have artha along the way, and kama can get us off track. I was thinking of all the descriptions that you were creating for us and the visualizations of the 10 bodies, and I'm thinking, oh, well, that desire could take me off the path, or
Hmm.
that desire could take me off the path. And it factors in tapas, discipline.
Yeah.
And it also factors in there's no silver bullet. You're going to hear me say that at least once, probably every episode. But true, the 10 bodies are inherent in who we are. We may not realize it. We're not
Hmm.
aware. Some would say enlightened to the knowing of the bodies and the Atman, but it's there. It's there for us to rediscover and get reacquainted with.
And you can perceive that in many different ways. You mentioned the koshas. You can approach this from many different traditions or um, practices. So this is just one way to look at it, or one tradition coming from the Kundalini tradition, which stems from the tantric lineage.
You know what I find in our dialogues is that some of the concepts that we are attempting to verbalize, make words around so that we can talk about it, it's so experiential. And it also is elusive. I talk about things being elusive, is that inherently when you know something, it doesn't mean that it has form. And it might mean that it doesn't need to have form. And words give things forms. And when we attempt to create words around something that is formless and true, it becomes a great mystery and challenge to be able to come up with analogies and definitions. And
Hmm.
so often, what I find is that when someone says or asks me, well, what is the self? We'll have a couple minutes of maybe we'll get close to a definition or a description or maybe a story about experiencing it at some point in whatever way. And then I say, the best way that I have found, and not everybody's going to agree with this, is to create a dedicated practice
Mhm.
to actually take that inward journey
Experience.
and go through there. There are some pathways, there are some processes, there are some methods that will take you down and get you there, maybe. It all depends on
On a good day.
on a good day, but it also depends on this lifetime. um, you know
Yeah,
through
exactly.
multiple lifetimes, which you and I have talked about quite a bit. So if you're hearing this for the first time, this it isn't shocking. It's here, but we talk about multiple lifetimes, and this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so, yes, you might sit down and be one of those beginner's luck, right? This is my first time trying this type of meditation to find the self and really answer the question, who am I? And it happens. It may not stick, it might not stay, it might just be a glimpse or a sparkle,
Sure.
but it lets you know I'm here, I'm raising it.
Yeah.
Hi. And
Yeah.
yeah, but it
The
takes
words.
time.
Well,
Time.
it does. It does. And it doesn't matter if it's, Dantian or if it's prana, explore the different avenues and the
Hmm.
different ways. I think that's what's so great about the information that's available to us now today is we have access, you can find these things. You can join us for future workshops and go deeper into any of these practices or uh uh even ideologies, philosophies, teachings, and also just explore. But it's that aspect of doing as well, doing the practice, whatever that may be, to experience it for yourself as within, so without. And it is one of those things where the words, once you start saying the words don't have meaning unless there's embodiment. And
Right.
then it is that elusive, there it is. It's the glimmer, it's the flicker, it's there. And can we sustain? And yeah, sometimes you can. And sometimes you gotta get back on that mat and go through the grind of, don't really want to be here, but I'm going to sit my 3 minutes. I'm going to do the practice. And that's part of it too.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
And so uh, the words are the words. It's the intellectual quality of
Right.
what we do.
Just trying
We,
to capture what we can't
right,
can't
right,
really capture.
right. And
So,
what we do then is what you just described. Find time, find ways, find intentions, sankalpas, to actually create the experience and then live the experience.
and share
So
the experience. Share the experience,
share it.
you know, with again, growing that. It's all about union. It's all about that connection. It's all about finding that spark within yourself because it's that radiant light. And that's really the radiant body, all or nothing. It's that magnetic presence that will bring to you the experiences that are meant for you. And all of a sudden, other things fall away in a way that, not in a way that is bypassing, but that truly allows us to experience all the aspects of life, whether they're joyful or painful, because we can hold the complexity of the human experience in its entirety, and we can carry that and not shy away from that truth of who we are. And we can really radiate that magnetic self, the radiant body, the radiant being.
We have more about the self coming and a few other things that are starting to emerge. One thing that I thought of when you just mentioned it, being whole. And I've said this a couple times, it's the shadow side of ourselves is also part of the self.
Right.
The
It's all
self.
about holding all of the experiences, those that we maybe have assigned negative meaning to, and that which we have assigned positive meaning to, those which feel joyful and those which feel painful. Those that we holding the complexity of different emotions together. There's a lot. So can we work through those as they come up through our practice, integrate them, understand them better so that we can really work again, do the work until the dissipation occurs. We carry that baggage around, maybe we file it away for later, it's going to come up, that audit time somewhere along the line, it's going to be like, well, hey, remember this file that you haven't looked at for a while? Here it is. And you're like, oh, snap, I got to deal with this one. And eventually it goes into that, if we are in that sattvic and, practicing that lifestyle, we can experience more of all of life.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
in a
neutrality.
more unbothered way. Yeah, I was just like unbothered. But
Yeah, neutrality. Yeah.
yeah, so anywho, yeah. Midwestern goodbye.
Well, we tackled that a bit today, and anytime that I have dialogue with you around a topic that is formless and wordless,
Mm.
um, I always feel like there's more to say,
There's
more to do,
always
more to
more.
think about, more to experience. So this, I think, will come back as we start thinking about how the perspectives you mentioned, well, 10 bodies or the koshas, or
Hmm.
it,
Yeah.
they are just different ways of describing something that, for all intents and purposes, is indescribable. Um,
Hmm.
and and so we're alerting ourselves and others to the existence of these indescribable energies and invite you to explore that a bit.
In whatever avenue feels you feel called to, because again, you had mentioned earlier, I don't remember if it was in this or our last talk together, but those energies may change and flow. Sometimes I have a very structured practice. Sometimes what I need are meditative walks, or what is it that is working for you. So there's no one way. We've talked about that long ago, to walk your path, and we will that evolves over time, and it's to really be able to tune in and check in with oneself and feel safe in one's own inner guidance system, because really that subtle self we're relying on, rather than that, the ego self that's relying on external
Mhm.
information. um yeah,
Yeah,
gosh. Okay. And we'll so
we'll be
next,
back.
and yeah, dun dun dun.
Right,
Yes,
right.
we'll be back. But also, thanks for joining us this time and for listening, and following along. And like I said, there's that episode previously on the Gunas, which kind of, tied into this one. See, we've got that, and check out our catalog. Join us anytime on our YouTube. Email us at conscious eyes, EYES 108 at gmail.com if you have any topics that you'd be, or if there's any aha that you're like, ooh, or what was that, or comment and like,
Yes.
share, subscribe.
And always, always, we're open for ideas and topics and comments. I had a comment that I responded to on, I don't even remember what episode it was now, but the individual was talking about the philosophies of life and how there really is nothing new, right? But at the same
Mhm.
time, was grateful that we were again bringing topics out for awareness, for dialogue, for response in whatever perspective you would like it to be. And we are welcoming all your comments in a neutral fashion.
Yes, we're here for nuclear revolution. So, we're here to hear what's coming up for you as well. So again, thank Darcy is like, Mom, it is time for a walk.
That's right.
She
Let's
wants
do what we need to do. I have two
to
dogs, one on either side of me with their faces looking at me, saying,
you
"My
know how the
turn."
universe tells you little things first and then it gets bigger. So she just gave me a little lick. Next time it'll be a bite.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's not do that. All right. Namaste.
Satnam.